My name is Charles Kiarie. I'm a media personality in the sense of I am a senior radio presenter at 98.4 Capital FM. When I say senior, it means a lot of things. Seniority in experience and probably age, but we won't get into that one. I'm also into theatre, into poetry, into basically the arts in itself, because that's one thing that I never asked for. I just found myself doing it. And this is something that my mom keeps reminding me all the time. But thank you so much, because especially for people like us who are artists, we go through so much because we have to keep creating all the time. We have to keep looking at a blank thingy like this and you have to start creating. And sometimes we have to go through a lot of mental issues, very many mental issues. And one of the things that I've actually found out over the years is that as an artist, we sort of tend to hide our emotions and our feelings. We tend to want to take them to another direction. For example, like creating. Our pains really enhance our creative side. Somebody else's pain who's probably closer to you. On the issue of mental health, I think more than anyone else, I'd like to believe, is the artists. And over the years, what I've seen were a lot of people of my generation especially, I won't tell you my age, but you will probably guess, when in the 1980s, things like mental health, when you had somebody who has mental issues, we just knew that guy is just bonkers, probably is using some substance of sorts, or just hanging around the wrong company. But little did we know that this thing is actually true, because the disparities that we saw when we were growing up in certain schools, the people who probably used to be picked up in cars and they were living in certain areas of the city. Well, you used to live in a certain area, you probably would excel even more than them in class, probably even in sports. But all the time they're talking about the way they traveled, the way they were picked up, they went to so-and-so's. And it sort of had an effect on a lot of us, because thankfully, for some strange reason, some of us overcame that to a point because of the artistic aspect of it, where we would go out, probably to the theatre and vent it out, just get it out. But nonetheless, it still stays there, because you never actually really talk to people, never actually had a conversation about what you go through, so you get it out. So that actually never happened. But of course, as we grew older and things started opening up, and this thing actually became the norm, that, hey, this thing is actually real, it's happening. And then as you get into parenthood and all that, and then you see your child actually go through it at some point because of exams and what they're going through, because in school they're being told a lot of things. And then you realize, wait a minute, this thing is actually true, and it's there, it's rampant. And we need to come together, especially men, us men, we don't talk. You see, we don't talk. Coming together, sitting down, and just bonding and having that session, that, guys, what are we going through? What is this? What is that? Because as I speak right now, it's not good. We need to start talking to each other. Ladies are more emotional. They talk to each other. They'll cry. But my generation, when you cry, you are just a weakling. In fact, men will just walk away from you. But yeah, people are coming together. People have started talking. When I say started, I'm using the word started advisedly, because it's deep-rooted. It comes from years and years and years of depression and putting things inside, and then it comes out in various other ways, whether through alcoholism, drug abuse, violence, and it will come. It's coming around, and using forums like this is to ask, especially the men, to start talking to each other. Not feeling ashamed that this is what you're going through at home. You can't provide for your kid, you can't provide for your wife or your family, you can't drive a certain car, you can't stay in a certain neighborhood. Things are sort of like depressed themselves to a point where a lot of guys are living from hand to mouth. If you used to live in a bourgeois place, now you can't afford it because salaries have been cut. Companies are downsizing. So you have to move and live in a certain area that you've not been familiar, because you've lived there for about 30 to 35 years. That has been the norm. So you have to move and adjust again, and the depression checks in and people stop talking. And yeah. So my advice is we start talking to one another. If you're artistic, find a way to get that out. by whether it's drawing, whether it's singing, you're going for poetry, go to the theater, you know, and be with like-minded people who are like you, who are artistic, where you can share easily. It will be much easier. Thank you for having me.